Who was Annabel Lee? In Part 1, I claimed Edgar Allan Poe wrote the poem for his dear departed wife, Virginia, but there were a handful of competing claims for the inspiration to the tragic poem. Let's take a look at Edgar's personal life and see if we can solve the mystery. Edgar Allan Poe was born in 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts. His father soon abandoned the family, and his mother Elizabeth died of tuberculosis when he was only 2 years old. He was taken in by John and Frances Allan of Richmond, Virginia, and spent most of his life in Virginia and Maryland. Unfortunately, he suffered from anxiety and depression his entire life. To say Edgar was a hopeless romantic would be an understatement, and I don't mean that to flatter him or belittle his troubles. At age 16, he became secretly engaged to Sarah Elmira Royster, aged 15. The engagement was quickly stopped by her father, who had little confidence in Edgar's prospects. In a couple of years, she instead married a successful local businessman. About the same time, Edgar joined the University of Virginia, but as described in the book Lives of the Novelists, gambling debts and a disinclination to own up to them led to his being kicked out of the University of Virginia and having his allowance, from John Allan, withdrawn. Trying to reconcile with his foster father, Edgar joined the United States Army and agreed to attend West Point, but he must have hated it because he excelled before, in his last year, engineering his own court-martial and dismissal. It was the last straw for John Allan, and Edgar was disinherited. In 1831, at age 22, he moved to Baltimore to live with his paternal aunt Marie Poe Clem and her young daughter Virginia. With this move, Poe began a productive period of writing and publishing short stories while he also worked as an editor. He went from journal to journal, dashing off poems, savage reviews, and stories like a writing Gatling gun. In 1832, Poe fell in love with Mary Devereux, a young woman who lived near the Clems. Then 10-year-old Virginia played the role of messenger, carrying love letters between the two. In 1834, Poe expressed his love for the intelligent and beautiful Virginia, 13 years his junior, and proposed marriage. 2 years later, at age 26, he married his 13-year-old cousin, Virginia Clem. If this seems awkward now, it was awkward back then too. Thomas White, a local magazine publisher, who had a low opinion of Poe's morals to begin with, must have been struck, as most people were at the time, with Virginia's youth. At the ceremony, the bride was stated to be of the full age of 21 years, although in fact she was not quite 14. It was not illegal at the time in the United States for a girl to marry at age 13, but the fact that her age was deliberately concealed suggests something of the extraordinary nature of Poe's attraction to her. Witnesses have stated that for the first 2 years, Poe continued to sleep apart from Virginia, but they began a normal married life when she turned 16. By all accounts, Edgar and Virginia were happy together. She seemed like a simple, pleasant young lady with a quiet disposition. Edgar was very protective of her and took to teaching her music, language, and mathematics. She liked to sing and play the piano, but did not care much for poetry, with one important exception we'll get to later. Sadly, 6 years after the wedding, she became ill with tuberculosis. She struggled on for 5 years, often sick and coughing up blood, often unable to get out of bed. Virginia passed away in 1847, after 11 years of marriage. And so began Edward's downward spiral. In Part 3, we'll look at the chaos in his life after the loss of Virginia, and why I believe she was the subject of his great poem. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel for new videos every week or two, and see the description below for the list of books referenced in this video.